The strange sound in the dark, the alien moon hung low in the sky, glowing pale blue over the jungle. A light wind rustled the tall, glassy plants that grew in clusters like frozen crystal spears. The air was thick with the smell of wet earth and something sweet, almost like ripe fruit. Jack knelt beside his portable generator, wiping grease from his fingers. The machine had been acting strange all day, and now, in the middle of the night, he had no choice but to fix it. Without it, his camp's lights would go out, and he'd be left in darkness alone, in a place where darkness meant danger. He was tightening a bolt when it happened. A sound, low, soft. Rolling, it wasn't the sound of the wind. It wasn't an animal call he recognized. It was purr. Jack froze, his wrench halfway to the next bolt. He held his breath and listened again. There it was, deep, slow, and steady. It came from the tree line just beyond the edge of the camp's lights. Jack slowly set the wrench down. His eyes scanned the shadows between the crystal leaf plants. He reached for the pistol at his side, but didn't draw it yet. His training told him not to act until he understood the threat. Another purr, closer this time. Jack's heartbeat quickened. Predators purred, sometimes not the friendly kind, but the kind that circled before striking. He'd seen alien wildlife do it before cats back on Earth too. But this sound, it had a strange rhythm, almost playful, almost human. Then a shape moved in the dark. Two faint points of gold light caught the moon's reflection. Eyes. Jack slowly stood. His fingers curled around the grip of his pistol, but still he didn't draw. The figure stepped into the edge of the light. And Jack saw her. It was a girl, not human. Her skin had a faint, pearlescent shimmer, shifting from pale silver to soft violet when the moonlight touched her. Her hair fell loose, black with streaks of deep blue like shadows on ocean water. She was barefoot, her toes sinking into the damp soil, and she was smiling. Her smile was strange, not wide, but slow and deliberate, as if each curve of her lips was chosen carefully. Her eyes stayed locked on his, unblinking. She tilted her head. The golden glow in her gaze flickered, and then she said, it deep, low, and rolling, a grrr. Jack's brow furrowed. He had no idea what it meant. Was it a name? A word? A threat? Smile deepened, and she began to move not towards him, but around him. Slowly, deliberately, like a predator circling prey. Her steps were light, almost soundless, but every movement was deliberate. As though she was testing something. Jack turned with her, keeping his front towards her. She purred again. A grrr. Jack glanced at the translator clipped to his belt. He thought about activating it, but something in his gut told him this wasn't just about words. This was a test. Do you understand me? He asked quietly. The alien girl's smile didn't change. Her eyes flickered down for a moment, scanning him the way a scout studies a new weapon. Then she stepped closer. Jack tensed. She was close. Enough now that he could see tiny, faint markings across her skin like glowing silver freckles scattered over her cheeks and collarbone. They pulsed faintly with light, matching the rhythm of her breathing. She inhaled slowly, as though taking in his scent. Then her eyes locked on his again. Grrr. Jack's hand tightened on his pistol, but still, he didn't raise it. Something about her tone wasn't violent. It was more like a claim. Look, he said slowly, I don't know what you want. Her lips twitched, almost like she was trying not to laugh. The sound came again, soft but unmistakable purr. Pause, a grrr. Jack's mind raced. He had no idea if she was playing with him, threatening him, or something else entirely. But the one thing he knew was that she wasn't leaving. She was studying him. watching every reaction. Somewhere in the jungle, a distant roar broke the moment. Hush! Jack's head snapped toward the sound, but when he looked back, the alien girl had already moved, closing the distance between them so quickly he hadn't seen her feet. She was standing right in front of him now, so close he could see the faint mist of her breath in the cold night air. Her voice dropped lower, almost a whisper. A grrr. Jack swallowed hard, and then she reached out, not for his weapon, not for his gear, but for his shoulder. Fingers brushed the fabric of his jacket, tracing it as though testing its texture. Then, without another word, she turned and began walking toward the trees. Halfway into the shadows, she stopped, looked back over her shoulder, and tilted her head again, almost an invitation. Jack didn't move. Not yet. He wasn't sure if following her was the smartest thing he could do, or the last mistake he'd ever make. But deep in his gut, he knew one thing, whatever a grrr meant. It wasn't over, it was just beginning. Jack stood at the edge of the light, staring into the shadowed trees. The alien girl was there, half hidden in the glow of the alien moon, her figure framed by the strange crystal leaf plants. She didn't speak again. She only tilted her head, waiting. Her golden eyes seemed to burn brighter in the darkness. Jack's instincts told him to stay put. Rule number 1 for survival on strange worlds: never walk into the unknown without backup. But something about her, it didn't feel like a trap. Or maybe that's exactly why it could be one. He decided to test her. Slowly, he took one step forward. Her head tilted the other way, and the faintest smile touched her lips. She purred again, deep, low, slow. A grrr. Jack's mind worked quickly. Was it a warning? A greeting? A name? Or was she simply mimicking the growl of a predator to see how he reacted? He stepped closer. The alien girl moved back into the shadows, keeping just far enough ahead that he would have to follow to see her clearly. Her movements were strange, silent, and fluid, as if her body didn't fight against the air, but flowed through it. Her long hair swayed with each step, catching bits of moonlight that made it look like strands of ink mixed with silver. Jack noticed something else. Her eyes never left his. Even when she turned slightly to walk, she kept her gaze locked on him. They circled each other without speaking, like two creatures from different worlds trying to understand if the other was prey, predator, or something in between. Jack decided to break the silence. "You understand me?" he asked. No answer. Just another slow purr. She was close enough now that Jack could see more of those faint silver markings along her arms and collarbone. They seemed to move, pulsing faintly with light-like veins of glowing or under her skin. When she stepped forward, Jack's hand twitched toward his sidearm again, but she didn't attack. She just studied him. Her gaze scanned over his shoulders, down to his boots, then back to his face. It felt less like curiosity and more like assessment, like she was deciding something important about him. Then she stepped to his side, almost brushing against him, and began to circle slowly. Jack turned with her, never letting her get behind him. She matched his pace, steps light, each one silent. Her eyes narrowed, and her purr deepened. A grrr. Jack tried to stay calm, but his heartbeat was heavy in his chest. If you wanted to kill me, you would have already tried," he said, keeping his voice steady. Her lips twitched again, almost a smile, almost a smirk. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of damp earth and something sharper like wildflowers mixed with metal. Jack realized the scent was coming from her. She stopped circling and stood right in front of him. Slowly, she raised her hand and reached toward his face. Jack's muscles tightened, ready to react. But she didn't strike. Her fingers hovered just above his cheek, not touching, almost like she was feeling the heat of his skin. Then she pulled her hand back and stepped away. The golden light in her eyes flickered once, twice like a signal. Jack didn't know why, but he felt like she had just passed some kind of judgment on him. A sound broke the moment, not from her, from the jungle. It was low and guttural, followed by a heavy thud of footsteps. Something big was moving through the trees. The alien girl's head snapped toward the sound. Her purr stopped. For the first time, Jack saw her expression change. Her lips tightened, and her eyes narrowed. Without looking at him, she let out a short, sharp sound in her language, something between a hiss and a growl. Then she glanced back at him and motioned with her hand. The meaning was clear. Follow. Now Jack hesitated only for a second before moving. She turned and slipped into the shadows, her body almost blending with the jungle. They moved quickly, stepping over roots and ducking under low branches. Jack could hear the heavy steps behind them getting closer. She didn't speak, but her movements told him she knew the terrain. Every turn was quick and purposeful, leading him deeper into the jungle. Finally, she stopped beside a large, twisted tree with roots as wide as his torso. She crouched low and motioned for him to do the same. They stayed there, silent, as the sound of heavy breathing came closer, then passed by. Jack kept his breathing quiet. The alien girl's shoulder brushed his as they crouched in the shadows. He could feel the faint warmth of her skin through his jacket. When the danger had passed, she slowly stood and looked down at him for the first time. Her voice softened, not the deep growl of before, but something quieter. A grrr. Jack looked up at her, his mind racing. He still didn't know what it meant. But whatever it wasn't meant to scare him. It was something else entirely. The night air in the alien jungle felt thicker now. Every sound seemed louder: the rustle of leaves, the distant cries of strange creatures, the faint hum of insects with crystal wings. Jack stayed a few paces behind the alien girl. As she led him through the dense undergrowth, her steps were light, almost silent, while his boots crunched softly against the damp soil. She didn't look back at him, but she slowed her pace just enough for him to keep up. It wasn't the pace of someone running from danger anymore. It was the pace of someone guiding another toward something. Jack's mind spun with questions. Who was she? Why had she circled him like prey? And most of all, what in the galaxy did a grrr mean? It wasn't just a sound. It wasn't random. She spoke it with purpose. He reached down and unclipped his translator device from his belt. It was small, no bigger than a palm-sized metal disc, and could scan speech patterns to guess possible meanings. He waited until the alien girl stopped. She was standing by a tall, vine-covered rock, looking out into the darker part of the forest. Jack pressed the device's side button and spoke. "Okay, let's figure you out." The translator hummed softly, scanning the audio from his memory logs. The alien girl turned her head, watching him with those golden eyes. Her gaze flicked to the device, then back to his face. She didn't seem threatened, but she was alert. Jack pointed toward her and said, "Say it again." For a moment, she didn't move. Then, with that same strange calmness, she let the sound roll from her throat, low, deep, deliberate. A grrr. The device beeped and displayed a single phrase in pale green letters. "I claim you." Jack stared at the words. What? He looked up at her, searching for some hint of humor or mistake. But her face stayed unreadable. The translator flickered and offered two alternative meanings. "You are mine. You belong." Jack's pulse kicked up a notch. Claim me. Belong where? To who? He forced a small laugh, trying to push down the sudden tension in his chest. That's an interesting choice of words. The alien girl didn't laugh. She stepped closer, moving with that same quiet grace, and stopped just within arms. Reach, her gaze was locked on him as if waiting for something in answer. Maybe. Jack shook his head. Sorry, but I don't do well with a sharp sound from the jungle. Cut him off. Not the heavy predator from before. This was lighter, but fast, multiple sets of footsteps heading their way. The alien girl's head snapped toward the sound. This time, she moved without hesitation. She reached forward, grabbed Jack's wrist, and pulled him into the cover of the vine-covered rock. Jack was about to pull away, but her grip tightened, not painful, but strong enough to make it clear. He wasn't going anywhere. Through a small gap in the vines, Jack saw movement, 3 figures slipping through the trees. They were tall and thin, wearing bone masks that hid their faces. Each carried a long, spear-like weapon that shimmered faintly in the moonlight. The alien girl's hand stayed on his wrist, her breathing slow and controlled. Her eyes stayed fixed on the masked figures. Jack noticed something. Her other hand was resting on a short curved blade strapped to her hip. The 3 masked figures paused, scanning the area. One of them tilted their head slightly, sniffing the air, then moved on. Their footsteps faded into the distance. Only then did the alien girl release Jack's wrist. Jack stepped back, rubbing the spot where she had held him. Friends of yours? She didn't answer. Instead, she looked at him for a long moment, then slowly raised her hand and tapped the center of his chest. Her fingers lingered there as she spoke again, softer this time, but with the same deliberate tone. A grrr. The translator hummed, scanning again, and gave the same result. I claim you. Jack exhaled sharply. You keep saying that like I'm supposed to know what it means. Her gaze softened just a fraction. Then she motioned for him to follow again, moving deeper into the jungle. Jack hesitated. He knew he should probably go back to his camp, fix his generator, and put as much distance as possible between himself and whatever strange culture he just stumbled into. But something about her eyes, about the way she had shielded him from the masked figures, kept his feet moving after her. As they walked, the jungle grew quieter. The moonlight faded under thicker canopy until only faint glimmers of silver broke through. The air smelled sharper now, like rain on metal. Finally, she stopped in front of something Jack hadn't expected. A massive stone structure half buried in roots and vines. It looked ancient, with markings carved deep into its surface. The designs were similar to the glowing silver markings on her skin. She turned to him, her eyes glowing brighter in the shadows. A grrr. She said again, this time with a strange warmth in her voice. The translator didn't just say, I claim you this time. It added one more word. I claim you. Hunter. Jack's breath caught. He wasn't sure if that was better or much worse. The stone structure loomed before Jack, half swallowed by the jungle. Thick vines wrapped around its cracked walls, and deep carvings told stories he couldn't read. The air here felt heavier, almost electric, as if the place held an old, dangerous secret. The alien girl stepped closer to the carvings, placing her hand against one. The faint silver markings on her skin began to glow more brightly, matching the symbols on the stone. Jack watched in silence, trying to understand. This is your place, he asked. She didn't answer with words. Instead, she looked over her shoulder, golden eyes catching the moonlight, and set it against soft, deliberate. A grrr. The translator on Jack's belt hummed. Claim you. Hunter. Double quotes. Hunter. The word unsettled him. Hunter. Of what? He muttered under his breath. Before he could ask again, she turned away from the wall and walked toward a clearing beside the ruins. In the center of the clearing lay a strange object, a weapon, unlike anything Jack had seen. It was shaped like a spear, but the tip glimmered with shifting colors. almost like liquid light. She picked it up with both hands and held it out to him. Jack shook his head. "No, I'm not." She stepped forward, forcing the weapon into his hands. The weight was surprisingly light at first, but it seemed to grow heavier the longer he held it. The grip was wrapped in some kind of scaled hide, warm to the touch, as if it had been alive once. Jack glanced at her. "You're giving me this why?" She tapped the weapon's shaft, then pointed toward the jungle. Only then did Jack hear a low, throbbing rumble in the distance. It wasn't the masked figures from earlier. This was deeper, hungrier. Something big was coming. The alien girl's body shifted slightly, her stance lowering. "Ready?" Her eyes never left the direction of the sound. She spoke in her own language, a string of sharp, clipped syllables before ending with that same low purr. The translator caught only fragments. "Prove yourself, Hunter." Jack felt his stomach tighten. This wasn't just about communication anymore. She wanted him to fight something. The rumble grew into heavy footsteps, each one shaking the ground. Leaves trembled. Birds with glassy wings burst from the trees, screeching as they fled. And then it stepped into view. A massive predator, black-scaled, with 4 muscular legs and a tail like a whip. Its head was long and narrow, filled with rows of jagged teeth. Twin ridges of bone jutted from its skull. Glowing faintly in the moonlight, Jack had seen dangerous animals before. But this thing? This was built to kill. The alien girl glanced at him once, her golden eyes sharp, and gave a single nod. Then she darted toward the beast. Jack swore under his breath and followed, spear gripped tight. The predator roared, charging forward. The girl moved like flowing water, darting to the side, her curved blade flashing in the dim light. She struck at its leg, leaving a deep slash that made the creature stumble. Jack didn't have time to think. Instinct took over. He lunged forward, driving the strange spear toward the beast's side. The tip didn't just pierce, flared with light, sending a shock through the creature that made it rear back with a scream. It swung its massive tail, and Jack barely rolled out of the way. The impact cracked the ground where he had been standing seconds earlier. The girl leaped onto the beast's back, driving her blade into the thick scales at its neck. The creature thrashed violently, trying to throw her off. Jack saw her grip slipping. Without thinking, he ran forward, stabbing the spear into its chest. The weapon pulsed again, brighter this time, and the beast let out a final, piercing roar before collapsing to the ground. Silence fell over the clearing, broken only by Jack's heavy breathing. The alien girl climbed down from the creature, her movements calm, as if she'd done this 1,000 times. She stood over the beast, placing her hand on its head, and murmured something in her language, a short phrase that the translator didn't catch. Then she turned to Jack. Slowly, she stepped closer until she was standing right in front of him. She placed her hand on his chest, over his heart, and looked directly into his eyes. "A grrr," she said, softer than ever before. The translator beeped. "I claim you, Hunter." But this time, it added one more word. "Partner." Jack stared at her, unsure what to say. He'd just fought for his life beside someone he barely understood, in a place he didn't belong. And yet, there was something in her gaze, not just challenge anymore. Trust. Somewhere in the jungle, the night sounds slowly returned. But Jack knew one thing: whatever had just happened wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something bigger. The predator's body lay still in the clearing, its black scales glistening under the pale alien moon. Steam rose from the wounds where Jack's spear and the alien girl's blade had struck. The air smelled of metal and something sharp, blood mixed with strange minerals. Jack's heart was still pounding. He gripped the alien spear tighter, feeling its strange warmth. 'Twas as if the weapon itself was alive, pulsing faintly in rhythm with his own heartbeat. The alien girl stepped away from the fallen beast, her eyes scanning the tree line. Her body language was calm but alert, as if she was waiting for something else to happen. Jack glanced around too. "Is it over?" he asked, his voice low. She turned her gaze to him, her golden eyes gleaming. Then she spoke a short sentence in her own language, ending once again with that deep, rolling purr. A grrr. The translator hummed on Jack's belt. "The hunt is not finished." Jack frowned. "Not finished." "That thing was huge. What else is there?" She didn't answer. Instead, she motioned for him to follow and began walking toward the far side of the clearing. Her steps were silent, but her pace was faster now. Jack followed reluctantly, every sense alert. They moved deeper into the jungle, where the air grew heavier and the plants thicker. Strange glowing fungi lit the ground in soft blue patches, and the calls of distant creatures echoed through the trees. Jack realized something: she wasn't just leading him randomly. She was following a trail. He saw faint claw marks on tree trunks, broken branches, and patches of disturbed earth. They were tracking something. "Let me guess," Jack muttered. "Bigger than the last one?" The alien girl glanced back at him briefly, but said nothing. Instead, she crouched low and touched the ground, pressing her fingers into a print in the soil. The footprint was massive, larger than his torso, with 3 deep claw marks at the front. Jack stared. "That's not good." The girl straightened and handed him a small pouch from her belt. Inside were round metallic pellets, each about the size of a marble. She gestured for him to load them into the side chamber of the spear. Jack followed her instructions, though he wasn't sure how the weapon worked. As soon as the last pellet slid into place, the spear pulsed with a brighter light, and he felt a strange energy hum along the shaft. They moved on, following the trail until the jungle opened into another clearing. This one was darker, the moonlight blocked by thick canopy overhead. In the center was a pool of still water, its surface reflecting faint green light from the plants around it. The alien girl stopped suddenly, raising her hand in warning. Jack froze. The water rippled. Something rose from beneath the surface, a massive shape, smooth and black, with ridges of bone along its back. 2 glowing eyes broke the water's reflection. Locking onto them instantly, the creature let out a deep, vibrating growl that Jack felt in his chest. Before he could react, it surged out of the pool, revealing its massive body, part reptile, part amphibian, with claws long enough to tear through metal. The alien girl shouted something sharp and fast in her language, and Jack's translator caught one word: "Move." They split apart as the creature lunged forward, claws gouging the ground where they had stood. Jack raised the spear and fired one of the metallic pellets. The tip of the weapon flared, launching a burst of light that struck the creature's shoulder. It roared in pain, but didn't slow down. The girl darted to its side, slashing at its leg. The creature swung its tail, sending her flying into a patch of tall plants. Jack's stomach clenched, but she rolled to her feet almost immediately. "Keep it busy," she shouted at least. That's what Jack thought she said. He darted forward, jabbing the spear into the beast's flank. The weapon discharged again, sending a shockwave through the creature's body. It staggered, but its clawed hand swept toward Jack with terrifying speed. He barely managed to dive aside, feeling the rush of air as the claws passed inches from him. The alien girl leaped onto its back, driving her blade deep into the thick skin at the base of its neck. The creature roared and bucked violently, trying to shake her off. Jack saw his chance. He ran forward and stabbed the spear directly into the wound she had made. This time, the weapon's pulse was so bright it lit the entire clearing. The creature let out a final, ear-splitting scream before collapsing into the pool, sending waves crashing against the shore. Silence fell. Jack stood there, chest heaving as the girl climbed down from the beast's back. She approached him slowly, her expression unreadable. Then, without a word, she took his hand and raised it slightly, as if presenting him to an invisible audience. Her voice was calm but strong as she spoke. A Grrr. The translator beeped. I claim you, Hunter, proven. Jack blinked. Proven. Proven for what? The alien girl only gave a faint smile. Then she gestured toward the path ahead, deeper into the jungle. Whatever trial this was, it wasn't over yet. And Jack had the sinking feeling that the hardest part hadn't even started. The jungle felt quieter after the battle, but Jack could sense the tension hadn't gone. The air was still thick with the scent of damp earth and blood. Somewhere in the distance, a low wind sighed through the crystal leaf plants, carrying a faint metallic tang. The alien girl walked ahead, her pace slow now, as if each step had meaning. Jack followed a few paces behind, his grip still tight on the alien's spear. Every muscle in his body ached, but his mind was sharper than ever. He had too many questions, and he wanted answers before the next monster appeared. When they reached a small hollow between two massive roots, she stopped and crouched down. Without looking at him, she began drawing in the dirt with the tip of her blade. Jack moved closer, careful not to startle her. She was sketching symbols, circles, lines, and shapes that looked like animal claws. Then she drew two figures, one clearly shaped like her own species, and the other shaped like a human. She tapped the human figure, then tapped him. Jack pointed. At the drawing, that's me. She nodded once. Then she tapped the other figure and herself. Finally, she drew a symbol above the two figures, a mark that looked almost like a spiral, but with 3 claw marks running through it. Jack's translator hummed faintly. Bond, huntbound. Chosen. Jack frowned. Huntbound, you mean? Because of the fight, her golden eyes lifted to meet his. She said it again, slowly, a grrr. The translator beeped. I claim you, Hunter. Partner. Life bond. Jack's stomach tightened. Life bond. Wait, hold on. You saying? He gestured between them. This is permanent. She tilted her head, studying his reaction. Then she placed her hand flat on his chest, over his heart, and left it there for a few seconds before pulling away. Jack stepped back, his voice unsteady. You're telling me killing those things wasn't just survival, it was some kind of ritual? She gave the smallest nod. He looked away, trying to process. Back on Earth, rituals meant handshakes. Maybe some symbolic gift, exchanged not fighting. Death beasts in the middle of a glowing jungle. He had thought she was testing him for trust. Now it sounded like he'd agreed to something far bigger without even knowing. Jack ran a hand through his hair. You know where I'm from? We usually ask before tying someone's life to ours. Her lips twitched, not quite a smile. She pointed at him and spoke a short phrase in her language which the translator rendered as, Hunter who does not run. Jack paused at that. She wasn't wrong, he could have stayed in camp, ignored her, even left her to fight alone. But he hadn't. He'd followed her into danger twice, and now he noticed her watching him closely, almost as if she was waiting for him to reject the bond. He sighed. Look, I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no. I need to understand what this really means. She stood, stepping closer until she was only a breath away. Her golden eyes locked on his, and she spoke in a softer voice than before. Ah. Grrr. The translator didn't give a simple word this time. Instead, it translated the full meaning. You are my hunt, my shield, my home. Jack felt the air leave his chest for a moment. There was no threat in her tone, no challenge, only certainty. Before he could respond, the wind shifted, carrying a faint sound from deeper in the jungle. It wasn't a roar or a growl, more like a chorus of distant voices chanting in a language he didn't understand. The alien girl's expression changed instantly. Her relaxed stance stiffened, and she turned toward the sound. Jack raised an eyebrow. "Friends of yours?" Her eyes narrowed. She answered with one word: "Trial." The translator followed: "Final hunt." Jack groaned. "Let me guess, this is the part where if I fail, I die." She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped past him, heading toward the sound. Jack stared after her for a second, then shook his head. "Of course I'm following you. That's how all of this works now, right?" He jogged to catch up. The path ahead sloped downward and the air grew colder. The chanting grew louder, echoing between the trees. Jack could see faint flickers of firelight in the distance. When they reached the edge of a wide clearing, Jack stopped. There were at least a dozen figures gathered there, tall, armed, and wearing bone masks like the ones he had seen earlier. They stood around a massive stone pit, glowing faintly from within. The alien girl didn't hesitate. She walked straight toward them, her posture proud and unyielding. The masked figures turned as one to watch her approach. Jack swallowed hard, his grip tightening on the spear. Whatever this final hunt was, it wasn't going to be just another fight with a beast. It was something far older, far more dangerous. And now, whether he liked it or not, he was part of it. The masked figures stood motionless as the alien girl approached the glowing stone pit. Their bone masks hid any hint of expression, but Jack could feel their eyes on him. The pit's glow was strange, not the steady burn of fire, but a pulsing light that shifted from gold to red, almost like a living heart. The air was warm here, carrying a faint hum that Jack could feel in his bones. The alien girl stopped at the edge of the pit, turning slightly to gesture for Jack to come forward. He hesitated. "You're not going to tell me what's down there, are you?" She said nothing, just watching him with those glowing golden eyes. The masked figures shifted slightly, their spears tilting forward. Jack let out a slow breath. "Right. Jump first, ask questions later." He stepped up beside her and looked down into the pit. At first, he thought it was empty. Then, from the shadows below, something moved, something big. The shape was hard to make out, but it had multiple limbs, each tipped with hooked claws. A faint hiss rose from below, followed by a wet scraping sound against the stone walls. The alien girl spoke a sharp phrase in her language, the words quick and precise. Jack's translator hummed, "Prove bond. Face the Guardian." He glanced at her. Guardian of what? Her reply was soft, but the translator didn't hesitate. "Guardian of us." Before he could process, she leaped into the pit. Jack swore under his breath, tightened his grip on the alien spear, and jumped after her. The heat hit him first, heavy, almost suffocating. The walls of the pit glowed faintly, casting red light across the stone floor. The creature stood before them now, fully visible. It was massive, taller than 3 men, with a body covered in segmented armor plates. For clawed arms flexed at its sides, and its face was hidden beneath a chitinous mask that pulsed faintly with light. It didn't attack immediately. Instead, it lowered its head and made a sound halfway between a growl and a grinding stone. The alien girl stepped forward, raising her curved blade. She spoke a single word. "On." Jack didn't need the translator for it. It was a challenge. The Guardian lunged. Jack barely had time to move before one of the clawed arms slammed down where he had been standing. The impact cracked the stone floor. He rolled to the side, bringing the spear up to block another strike. The weapon absorbed the blow, its tip flaring with bright light. The alien girl was already moving, darting low to slash at the creature's legs. Sparks flew where her blade met its armor. The guardian roared, swinging two of its arms toward her. She dodged one, but the other caught her in the side, sending her stumbling back. Jack's gut tightened. He sprinted forward, driving the spear into one of the creature's joints. The weapon pulsed, and the guardian shrieked in pain, jerking. Back it turned its attention to him now, claws slashing in a blur. Jack barely blocked the first strike and ducked the second, but the third sent him skidding across the floor. His ribs ached, but he forced himself to get up. The alien girl shouted something in her language. The translator caught only two words: strike together. She moved in from the left, Jack from the right. The guardian tried to track them both, but their movements crossed and overlapped. She leaped onto its back, driving her blade deep into the base of its neck, while Jack jammed the spear into the wound from below. The weapon flared so bright that the walls of the pit lit up like day. The guardian let out a final bone-shaking roar before collapsing to the ground, its claws scraping the stone one last time before going still. Silence fell. The alien girl pulled her blade free and stepped toward Jack. Her breathing was heavy, but her eyes were steady. She stopped in front of him, placed one hand on his shoulder, and spoke in that deep, rolling tone one final time. A grrr. The translator beeped. I claim you, hunter, partner, life bond. Forever. Jack didn't move for a moment. He could feel the weight of those words, not just as a translation, but as a promise above them. The masked figures looked down into the pit. Then, one by one, they struck the butts of their spears against the stone in a slow, rhythmic beat. The alien girl reached up, brushing her fingers lightly against his cheek. Then she turned to face the masked figures and raised her blade high. The chant began deep, resonant, and in perfect unison. Jack didn't know the words, but he understood the meaning. He wasn't just a visitor here anymore. He was one of them, as they climbed out of the pit together. The alien girl didn't look back, and for the first time since he'd met her, Jack didn't feel like a stranger in this strange, dangerous world. He felt claimed, not as property, not as prey, but as a partner, bound by an alien promise he hadn't asked for, and wasn't sure he wanted to break.